Hello and welcome again to Between the Sheets, the show where we look inside your papers and hopefully get some understanding of some of the stories that maybe you might have missed. Alternatively, we'll just end up ripping up some papers. Today, going through these papers with me is Benjamin Butterworth. He's the late editor of the newspaper, but thankfully very much alive today. And also, same old joke, different week. And Dawn Neesom. Never a joke, never a Butterworth joke at all. She is, of course, a columnist and broadcaster, and she's here to give some sense and sensibility to the stories that we discuss.
This is Extinction Rebellion. They have left 120 tonnes of rubbish after their protests.
I find that they are so hypocritical, these people.
No, are they? No one noticed.
No one noticed, but I'm almost lost for words. That the police have not gone in and arrested them all, that they're all doing the same boring old nonsense that they did a couple of years ago, and they think the rest of us care.
But the thing is, they've actually they've all come in from the home counties in their probably in their Range Rovers via Waitrose with their sandwiches. Because let's face it, they're not a very diverse crowd, are they?
Oh, come on.
They're not very diverse.
Look, it's not about, they shouldn't leave 120 tonnes of rubbish. That's a pretty bad thing. I dare
What do you mean it's a pretty bad thing? It's disgusting. It's like the co-founder telling us that we should all ditch our cars, but I've got to keep my diesel car because I need to get to XYZ.
It's like
the virtue signalling of the celebrities saying, the environment is so important, and then they fly to these meetings on their private jets, they fly around the world to their second homes. Internationally, I mean, all this stuff, I'm sorry, lead by example or shut up.
But the problem isn't the individuals who, for example, can't afford to replace a diesel car with a brand new electric car. The problem is the system, and that's what has to be changed if we're going to fix these problems.
How do you think that's going to happen?
How we fix these problems is stopping with the exaggeration that says, we're going to overheat, we're going to this, we're going to that. They're predicting into the future, and we know that scientists are not particularly good at looking into the future. We know also that the climate changes, that the modelling is flawed.
Around you, when Greece is on fire, California is on fire, Germany is underwater. These are the realities of the consequences of global warming.
It's happened before.
And it's getting more regular and more extreme.
It's just because you haven't been around long enough to see it. I'm sorry, but
you
it's
won't be around.
all my life.
That's the truth. You won't be around long enough to see it. You don't. It'll be our grandkids' generation. They'll be underwater or on fire.
Well, then they'll live
Frinton
somewhere
on Sea
else.
won't be selling ice creams when it's underwater, James.
It won't be underwater. It'll be fine.
How long do you reckon we've got?
What? Well, I mean, I'm not the scientist, but I trust them when they say
a lot of these people aren't either.
That 2030 we have to have not hit the 2 degrees that they're predicting as the worst case scenario.
Deal with the world's population. Deal with the countries who are most emitting. This nonsense that Greta comes out with saying your people are lying and blah blah blah. This discussion about but you're just exporting your stuff to China. China has to deal with it. India has to deal with it. America has to deal with it. Otherwise, the stuff that we do, this tearing up of our economy, is utterly pointless.
But the economy will be torn up if we do nothing. You must know this as a businessman. You have to get ahead of trends, ahead of problems that are coming your way.
And your ideas have to make sense. And I'm afraid that the ideas and the plans that these people are putting forward do not make sense. And if they're going to come to our capital city, make us spend a whole load of money on policing them and leave their crap behind, they can bugger off back to their home counties and stick it where it don't shine, because I'm not interested. I don't care. I don't want to hear from them. They're hypocrites and they should shut up and go away.
Take the pink table to Beijing. See how you get on.
Yeah, exactly. Tiananmen Square. Let's start off and have a look at what's happening in Afghanistan. Of course, it's a very serious situation. The question is, as many of the papers are asking, well, how many more people do we need to get out? And should we be taking more people anyway?
We can't just have open borders. We have to check who we are bringing into this country. We've already had one incident of somebody that was on a no-fly order who managed to fly into this country as a refugee.
But do you think that a lot of the people who are coming, but do you think a lot of the people who are going to come to this country, they might be thankful that they've been airlifted out, but they may not be particularly thankful for us for long? I mean, in terms of how they're treated, in terms of their opportunities in life, how we fund them, how we give them homes, how we make sure that their lives aren't destitute. I mean, there could be a significant minority who decide, you know what, you came to our country, you made a total mess of it, you then rescued us, and now look. I mean, we are storing up a problem for the future, aren't we?
I think there is, but it's not just our problem, it's a global problem now. And, you know, we have to do something.
It's a global problem, but then who else is helping? You've got the US
all are.
a bit,
to be fair, yeah, they are. I mean, the Americans have taken more than us, but they've got a bigger country than us, obviously. And Pakistan now has got 3 million Afghanis in their country already. And so, and to be honest with you, if I was an Afghanistani, I wouldn't want to come all the way to freezing UK at the moment. I'd be more than happy. I would want to stay as close to my homeland as possible and get back as soon as possible.
And look, although you've had someone from the no-fly list, in fact, I think it was 5 of them, but 4 of them got stopped before they got on the plane who attempted it. The truth is, I don't think there's going to be masses of dangerous sort of Taliban, Al-Qaeda supporting people who want to come here, because if they're of that view of the world, they'll be staying in Afghanistan now the Taliban are taking over.
No, because if I was running the Taliban, which I wouldn't be, obviously being a girl, I'd be at home in a burqa, I would actually be doing my utmost at the moment to smuggle sleepers all over the world to awaken in a few years' time to blow the smithereens out of us. And that's what we're going to be, that's what we're going to be scared of.
Well, thank God you don't run the Taliban.
Well, I'm not going to, am I? Because I haven't got a beard.
What a fantastic conspiracy theory you've started there.
But they're going to. That's obvious.
But I mean, the Taliban says that it's very much against Al-Qaeda because it signed that Doha peace agreement, the one with Donald Trump, which says that you won't harbour terrorists that are a threat to the US and its allies.
Taliban have never lied, never knowingly done it.
Because Taliban 2.0, I mean, you know, they're so respectful to people.
I mean, look, you know, I would take anything they say with a heavy dose of cynicism. However, as I interviewed the Taliban's official spokesman last week,
yeah, he phoned you at home.
He did.
Why has he got your telephone number?
He phoned me at 4 a.m. because
Why has he got your telephone number?
Because I've been chasing him to do the
Weren't you
interview
out clubbing at the time?
I just got home, thankfully.
How do you think you'll fare in Afghanistan under the Taliban?
I think I'd do terribly. I wouldn't want to visit.
I mean, did you tell him that he was speaking to somebody who
We've just been out to heaven.
Well, do you know, I just got home from a drag night in Soho when the Taliban rang.
They're going to love that.
I mean, there's an opening to a dinner party. Yeah. Well, I just got back.
Exactly.
From a drag night in Soho, the Taliban were on the phone.
It's true, and because I'd been chasing them down for a story because this
but
person...
how do you find... I know this is a journalist thing, but how do you find their number? I mean, it's not as if you can just go into the old yellow pages and go, what's the number? Or ring up, 118, 118. Excuse me, Maureen, or whatever. Can I have the number for the Taliban, please?
I tried Maureen, but she didn't have the number. Well, I mean, I'm a journalist, and you work through a set of connections and
Okay,
contacts.
So you got... and they rang you. What did he say?
So, I mean, first of all, I'm at home in my boxers, and...
Did you tell him that?
I didn't, but I did the whole interview in my boxers. And also, I'm on the phone doing it on speakerphone, interviewing about Kabul airport, about women's rights, about all these questions. The one I referred to about Al-Qaeda and the threat to the West. And the absurdity is my flatmate texts me on WhatsApp saying, Benjamin, you've woken me up, it's 4 a.m. and you're having this loud phone call. Do you really need to? And I said, I'm really sorry, it's the Taliban on the phone. And then before he'd rung when I'd got home into bed, I'd ordered 2 pieces of chicken and chips. You'd hate me, wouldn't you? You'd hate that kind of thing. Oh no, you love KFC, don't you? Or is that Dan?
That's Dan.
Dan.
Yeah,
I thought you loved your KFC.
No, we both have the same initial at the beginning of our names, but Dan likes the chicken.
You hate it.
No.
She's just gone down a vignette here. Anyway,
so
back to the story.
I'd ordered this chicken, and I'm holding my laptop, which is recording it with my speakerphone, and then the delivery man comes to the door, so I'm trying to explain my delivery.
I've got the Taliban on the phone. Be with you in a minute.
So I'm trying to get the chicken through the door while on the phone to the Taliban on the other line. I mean, it was absurd, but the important thing was I got the interview and I managed to challenge them on some of the things they were doing, but it couldn't have been in a more ridiculous
Let me ask you very quickly about that interview, though. So, do you get the impression that what they are saying is what they are doing, or do you get the impression that they are simply saying what they know that we want to hear?
Well, what they're saying and what they're doing clearly aren't the same thing. And so he said, we're not going to go door to door. We're not going to attack NATO allies. And I said, but I know you are. We've seen the reports from people on the ground and in the media. And he said, but they are rogue fighters and they will be prosecuted in the courts in Afghanistan. That remains to be seen. And he said...
It's all going to come down to money, isn't it?
Well, this is the thing. So 22% of Afghanistan's GDP is international aid. Germany, about 2 weeks ago now, said Afghanistan won't get a penny of its money if they introduce Sharia law. So I think the reason that Afghanistan and the Taliban, rather, has had this PR campaign with the West, the reason that they responded to my text messages and rang me in the middle of the night, is because he quite literally said this. Afghanistan and the Taliban still want our foreign aid money, and he said we want a global conference that brings together countries on how you are going to pay to reconstruct Afghanistan after you destroyed it. That was their line of argument. So I think they're trying to soften how they look so they still get our international aid budget.
They're doing a fantastic job with the 12-year-old girls and walking around women's houses and painting pink marks on their doors.
It's not ideal.
Women live here.
Now, let's talk a little bit, though, about another story which is elsewhere in here, which is to do with Afghanistan,
yes.
which is to do with the animals.
Right.
There is a huge discussion as to what is more important, helping women, children, people who might be terrorised,
people that helped us for 20 years,
or the animals.
I'm sorry, for me, it is absolutely no contest. The people come first. I mean, not because I don't like animals, of course I do, but I mean, it is absolutely no contest. If it comes down to getting a young girl or boy out of Afghanistan who are in mortal danger, then that comes before a stray dog. I'm sorry.
Benjamin?
Without doubt. I mean, it's obscene.
So then why are people even having these conversations?
I mean, Ben Wallace, the Defence Secretary, tweeted just a few hours ago, please stop contacting me about these cats and dogs. They're not a priority. We need to get people out. And he's absolutely right. You know, the idea that
but
on these...
the Brits, you know, I mean, you nearly caused a meltdown when you suggested that an alpaca should die.
I didn't suggest the alpaca should die. I said we should stop getting so aerated about one alpaca when there's so many other horrors going on that we really should be concerned about.
But British people love animals, and this guy wants to rescue his animals. Why shouldn't he be allowed to?
No. Look, he should. Look, rescuing the animals is important, and he is paid. Penn has paid for a private charter jet to come in and take the animals out. The animals can go in the hold where people can't go. I get all that. I completely get all that.
So if that's the case, then what's wrong with doing that?
Because the jet has to land at Kabul airport, which is utter chaos. And if that jet gets a landing slot that could have allocated a transport plane that can rescue human beings, I'm sorry, the transport plane and the human beings have to come first. However, saying that, I think how this story has been handled by Ben Wallace, the Defence Secretary, has been appalling. I think he is appalling. I admire the work Penn and his team are doing out there, and I think, yes, obviously animals are important. However, if it's between a stray dog and a 12-year-old girl about to be handed over to sex slavery as a bride of a Taliban fighter, no contest.
Benjamin, are you kill the animals, leave them there?
Well, I mean, you'd hope they wouldn't die if they stayed there, but it's ultimately it's not our responsibility. The people are our responsibility. No. They helped us. They've saved some of our troops' lives over the years that they've been working with our forces, and we should be getting all of them back. And not only could it take a landing slot, but they'll take up weight on a plane. And we know that people are just flooding onto these planes.
Actually, one of the Taliban's thing, one of the cuddly woke new Taliban Mark II things is they're animal lovers.
Right.
Yeah. Just not the female animals, obviously.
What do they think about alpacas? Are they...
No, I haven't asked them about alpacas yet.
I'll ask next time.
You ask next time. Our man with the route to the Taliban.
And check out what they'd like their pronouns to be while you're on.
If you wouldn't mind. Just before we move on to things other than migration, tucked on the front page of today's Daily Telegraph, but it's also inside. France has demanded a new migratory deal with Britain to allow the EU to send asylum seekers over the Channel to the UK. This is Clement Beaune, who is just trouble. When are the French going to realise that until or unless they stop being such arses over Brexit, it's unlikely that anything new is going to be agreed. But if they just realise that we're very interested in this country, I think, in having a good relationship with France and with the EU. Yes, well, I think we are, in terms of trade and everything else. But if they're going to stick to very stupid rules about very stupid things, then things like this are not going to get sorted.
You know what? I actually voted Remain. There you go. There's a confession.
Did you?
However,
stupid thing to do.
The way the EU have behaved ever since Brexit has been absolutely appalling. And now I think the French can go and stuff themselves. I don't think we should even be talking to them anymore.
There's a whole piece here. We must have a new migratory deal so that we can direct migrants to the UK so that they can request asylum. I mean, which two words other than off and the F word do you want to hear?
What's wrong with France? Why can't they have asylum in France?
Well, quite.
I wouldn't want to live in France either. I get that, but I mean,
I think France takes more migrants than we do, if I'm not mistaken. I think the number is much higher.
They've got a bigger country.
They've
much bigger
got
country.
a similar population to us, don't they?
Yes, exactly.
In a
So
bigger
they're much
country.
bigger countries. They've got plenty of places to put them.
But look, I mean, do you know, I just hate there's endless antagonism
They've
from
got a very
both
small
sides.
president. He can spare some room.
He's got a massive palace
Yeah.
as well, so they can go and live with
The
him.
Anglo-French row follows Saturday's daily record of 828 migrants reaching the UK, bringing the total to more than 12,500 this year. I mean, this is a perilous situation, but to my mind, why are we still giving the French millions of pounds to apparently deal with this problem and they're not dealing with it?
They're not dealing with it. And
They're taking the
they're
money and then just
helping
sending them on
They're
boats.
literally
Off
helping
you
them.
go. Come to the shore.
And they
You
shouldn't
don't
be
know
coming
that.
in any case. It's not a war zone, is it, France?
Well, have you
mean,
been to some of France?
Huh? Oh, God, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Mind you, I haven't been for a while. We haven't been allowed.
We're not allowed.
No.
Because they don't like us.
No.
They don't like us?
I can't think why. It's a mystery.
The French have always had a very interesting relationship with the Brits. I mean, I think the other thing is that on an individual basis, you'll meet French people, amazing, fantastic country, beautiful food,
Good wine.
countryside, the
Good
whole
wine.
thing. But on the other hand, I think when it comes to their politicians, they suddenly go into weird mode.
Oh. Have you seen Boris Johnson? I mean, I think we have some weird politicians as
We
well.
do have weird politicians, yeah. But
Does it just mean that in order to do politics, you're just going to be weird?
Yeah, it helps.
Okay.
I mean, let's face it, Macron has got an election to win coming up, next year, is it? He just wants people to love him. Boris just wants people to love him. The head of the Taliban just want people to love them.
Oh, how glorious. Ben, where would you like to go?
Well, I'm going to talk
Afghanistan
about...
to talk to his mate in the Taliban, obviously.
He's not my mate. He's a
Benjamin
very
doesn't
dangerous
want to
Did
know.
he have a beard? I bet he had a beard.
Well, it was over the phone, although my
bet he had a
editor...
beard.
We obviously
Could
extensively...
you put him on speakerphone?
We obviously spent a lot of time verifying and proving it, which we did. And my editor, one of the first questions asked was, why didn't you FaceTime him?
Yeah.
And I said, well, it was 4 a.m. and I was in my boxers at home. I don't think it would have helped if he could see the context in which I'd had to do the interview.
Put on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was sort of
Mind you,
rushed.
he wouldn't have been happy though with the beard. No beard.
No, exactly.
And actually, I think they might.
I mean, if I'd brought my wife in, I would have had a beard. But
I think I think they might have liked it. They don't like women very much, so maybe.
Maybe.
my raw masculinity would have charmed them.
Maybe. Anyway, to your next story.
So, I mean, everyone's talking about the vaccines. Aside from the fact that they might have vaccines for 12-year-olds, which has been in the news today, The Sun is reporting that only a few people are going to get this third top-up vaccine. About 500,000 of the most vulnerable people.
What?
Over 80s
But
who are
why are they
healthy won't get
focusing
it.
on 12-year-olds and 12 to 15-year-olds and then saying, even worse than focusing all the time and effort on that, they're saying that the 12 to 15-year-olds can make up their own minds and it's not a parental decision and the parents don't have a say, which strikes me as utterly horrendous. But why on earth are we not focusing on this vaccine and its efficacy, saying we must make sure that the whole programme that we spent millions of pounds doing is still effective? Let's have the booster, and particularly it should be for anybody probably over the age of 40. Make sure it's there.
And I find it frightening that they are going to trust 12-year-olds to make this decision.
I mean, for me, I think we've just been talking about countries like Afghanistan, the poorest countries in the world. I don't see how we can justify giving it to 12-year-olds when there are still millions of vulnerable people in so many countries who haven't had the chance.
But even worse than that, I understand that
it should be
viewpoint.
going to them, not our kids.
Well, possibly, but I would say that it's even more important that if you've gone through, and I understand that the need to get the vaccine out across the world, but if you've gone through the whole vaccination process, I do not understand why we are not making sure that it is as effective as possible for the people that we've already vaccinated, rather than saying, it's rather like running a bath, letting it go cold, emptying all our water out and just wasting it. That's kind of what we're doing. And it makes no sense.
I mean, that is something I do because I'm forever putting baths on and forgetting I've.
As long as you don't let
Because
them
you're on the
flood
phone to
over.
the bloody Taliban, obviously.
But do you know what? I mean,
do they get jabs?
If you
Do we send our jabs to them?
I would send it to the needy around the world. Israel at the moment is reintroducing lockdown measures because it was the earliest world in the country to get
Let's
around.
learn from their experience. They were first.
Israel, I think, only used Pfizer, and it's the effects of it have appeared to fall from about 90% to 65%
Yeah, over
at the
the
6 month
six-month period,
mark.
yeah.
Now, I think that's probably the real danger that we should be aware of because for a great many millions of Brits, that 6 month mark comes in autumn
But we've
and winter.
got the data, so let's use the data effectively. And this is where the most important thing that a government can do is to lead, and it can set a roadmap, and it can deal with leadership issues. When they first put out the roadmap, I thought, thank heavens, finally we got something. And then when it started to kind of go right at the end, it was just like, oh, really? And then now they seem to have completely become rudderless again, and they've got the clear data that says this is important because in a few months' time, our winter comes, combining with the fact that the efficacy of what we've done already will have ebbed away. Let's make sure that we do not create a situation for ourselves. The writing is on the wall today.
So the only roadmap this government have ever had either leads to Barnard Castle or their mistress's house. They are absolutely clueless. They've never had a clue. I don't trust a word they say anymore. And I just and what's a roadmap in any case? Why not just have a plan? I mean, it's like. Well, honestly, how can you believe a word they say? They haven't got a clue what they're doing. And now, once the vulnerable are vaccinated, we're fine. Oh, once over 40 are vaccinated, we're fine. Now they're coming for 12-year-olds?
It's not a deal,
Where do they finish?
I mean, my hopes have been
hand over your fetus?
Scientists in Sweden are working on a pill that will work like the vaccine that you can just take orally, and I think that's a great hope because that will make
how pills work.
Because that will make exactly.
Them.
But that will I think that will be a great help because if we need these top ups and you can just get it in a pill form every few months, I think that will be an enormous help to be able to roll this out on an ongoing basis.
Let's distract ourselves with something else. You'd like to talk about the front page of the Daily Mail.
Daily Mail, the front page. I know this is between the sheets, but I mean it does go between the sheets as well. This one, but obviously
this one is in the sheets. It's everywhere else. It's inside every
Daily
paper.
Mail, who are never knowingly not seeing a Harry and Meghan story, they can't run all over the place. This is the Daily Mail, and it's the sensational new book. Evidently, Omid Scobie, is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah.
He's updated that hideous hagiography he wrote on the Duke and Duchess of Sussex.
It's such a trash job.
Exactly.
If I was him, I'd just be embarrassed by just how tawdry it is.
I would be embarrassed all the way to the bank.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth.
Oh,
exactly.
that's worrying.
But here's the thing.
How old is he in this story?
But what I
Yeah,
find
exactly.
what I find so extraordinary though, it took two of them to write it though. Palace relief that Duchess missed the funeral. It's not just the Palace relief. We're all relieved she missed the funeral. That would have been a car crash. Courtiers accused of plotting against her. No, everybody plotted against her. Just they didn't plot against her. It's just whatever. William Fury at that interview. It wasn't just William's Fury. Everybody was furious.
Yep, absolutely.
And the most incendiary of all, Harry and Meghan considered naming the royal races. Well, we all wish they would have done it, or shut up or go home.
But this is the thing. I mean, it's like, because we thought that would hurt the royal family more. You've hurt the royal family by not naming them because you've tarred everybody with the same. Can I use that phrase, tarred with the same brush, in relation to a story about race?
Well, you have done.
Probably not. Anyway, you've tarred the entire family and most of the UK population as hideous racists.
I mean, I think they did a lot more damage by not saying who they were referring to, because the truth is that's basically blackmail. That is saying we've got this on somebody and it's gonna be hanging over you for as long as we want to. So you better do what we want while I write a 4-series book. Yeah. And I am not a hater. I'm not a disliker of Harry and Meghan. I like lots of what they do. And
I don't.
No.
I don't like the fact
they even make it hard for me.
No, I don't. Well, I'm glad they make it hard for you because on the basis that what I don't like is that the whole money-making thing is purely not off the back of them being interesting, successful, creating interesting new content. It's purely off the back of their titles, for which you, me, us collectively have paid for, and they are damaging the institution from which they've come. And I think it's disgusting.
I mean, the money is
going
to charity, of course. Let's not forget that.
No, most of the money is going in their pockets. How on earth can they afford to live in the house that they live in with the flunkies that they've got, the jets that they fly in, and all that stuff, unless they're siphoning off a huge amount of money to run that machine?
Yeah, the line that I particularly liked in this, though, was like, the fact that they complained about the racist royal family and the fact that the royal family haven't addressed these issues. They're deeply disappointed by that. Although they deny, obviously, we need to say, they deny having anything to do with this new chapter, anything to do with this book at all. In any case, they said they're worried that the fact that the racism hasn't been addressed and all they've been through, all the suffering they've endured, from the ultimate life of privilege. I mean, they're worried that they're worried that this could bring down the monarchy. Get over yourselves. I mean, really, it's not
quite. There is a lot of wokery in the papers, but it's been buried because we've got
buried wokes. Good idea.
White people say they can no longer get on television. Discuss.
Oh yeah, I saw this
Well,
story.
they're fine on this programme.
Yeah, actually, you can identify as whatever you want. No, this is from the TV conference going on up in Scotland, isn't it? And this is a producer who's I think Asian descent, and he said he's been struggling for years to get our ethnic voices seen and heard on TV. And now all he's hearing from white people working in TV is that they're finding it a struggle to get on because all people want is ethnic minority people on TV. Now, but you do have to admit that almost every advert on TV these days does seem to feature a mixed race family.
But I mean, I think in adverts it's been like that for a while. I think the difference
I don't think it has, Benjamin. I think it's really, really, really now.
Do you think it's?
Being
Do you think?
pushed as some sort of woke agenda.
On one hand, you want to. What I find extraordinary about this whole thing is that people will say, "Well, I want to see people like me, on TV," and I totally get that. But then on the other hand, if people like me means that if you're looking at it and if you're white and then your family isn't mixed race, or if you're black or Asian or come from somewhere else, of course you're always looking for role models. But TV can't necessarily always reflect that. And why, if you're going to live in a society that is integrated, then you need to start looking beyond colour as opposed to looking at colour. And at the moment, I think the whole woke agenda has turned us back onto colour. It's turned us back 30 years.
No, I don't accept that. Right. It's about reflecting sort of different life experiences, different walks of life in this country. And when you have a reality show like Bake Off or anything like that, where they have 10, 15 contestants on a series, of course you can have a range of different ethnicities, a range of different life experiences and disability, and that's good. And for so long,
good.
But for so long, there have been people, for example, black people in this country who probably wouldn't have got on television, wouldn't have got the opportunity to get on television, because there would have been an idea that people wouldn't buy into them, that they wouldn't be as commercial, and that's held them back for decades. And I think we've broken that down.
Do you think we have, though? Because if you're talking about ultimately, certainly commercial radio TV, they're driven by ratings. And if you don't get the ratings, regardless of who you are, you're going to go. So what you've got to do is you've got to make people popular, which also means that you've got to should be focusing on skill. And I find it very disappointing that we don't talk about skill and quality and all of the things that anybody, regardless of your background, needs to have in order to be able to make
what we're talking about is positive discrimination.
Which I dislike.
Like, you've got the job because you are a woman, because your skin is a certain colour, because you are of a certain sexuality.
Well, no, because you would have been blocked because of those things.
You should never be blocked because of those things.
No,
but that's yes, but how do you
don't
remove
tell me
the blockage, but then stop with the positive discrimination hiring people? Because surely it's more damaging if you have a look at certain situations. I'm sure we can all come up with examples where somebody's been hired, and I don't care whether they're white, black, Asian, or anything else, male, female. There will be people who've been hired because of a perception, and they can't do the job.
Yeah, that certainly applies to plenty of white men. I just don't accept this idea that when you look at so many of the senior positions on television, the media, the business world, the idea that the best people for the job were always a white bloke. It's just not true. I mean, you were one of the, there's only been a handful of national newspaper editors that have been
absolutely.
women. And you must be aware of an expectation of what someone like that job looks like.
I would absolutely be really upset if I thought I'd got that job because I'm a woman and because somebody wanted to tick a box saying we needed a female editor. I wanted to get that job because I was a damn good journalist.
Can I ask
but you must recognise that there would have been along that way women that would have had fewer opportunities because of what was expected of them. They might have behaved in a way that wasn't the laddish or the blokey way that a group of people in a newspaper would expect.
Like a bloke?
No, I'm not. But that will block some women in some places. Surely you recognise that.
What? No, if you're a good journalist, regardless of what sex you are, what colour you are, you should get the job.
Let me ask you some questions about getting some jobs.
I think we're all been sacked already. It's too late.
I could be Doctor Who. Whoopi Goldberg wants to be the next Doctor Who. I love this idea. I mean, either her or Ollie Alexander.
Only she can get Harry and Meghan on as the Daleks.
I don't think Whoopi Goldberg would do that, but I think she'd be amazing, wouldn't she?
She also goes on in that interview, though. She's a big fan of Doctor Who.
Yes.
She also goes on in that interview to say that I would love it, I would love to do it, and I think she'd be brilliant.
She couldn't do the running down the corridors thing.
I think she'd be brilliant at it. However, she also says that I'm not sure an American being Doctor Who would work, 'cause he is so quintessentially English, and it probably
true.
needs to be. She says this herself. He or she, or it, or whatever, needs to be English.
I would quite like a return to somebody who's ever so slightly pompous and a bit removed, just because I.
Are you
want to-
available?
Are you available? Oh my God, we're thinking alike.
getting
We are so
similar.
twinning
Wow.
today.
Talking of being available, ITV boss Kevin Ligo has admitted that the channel cannot find a good enough replacement for Piers Morgan. Hello, ITV.
No.
We can have a conversation.
James, you miss good. The phrase "good enough" was in there.
Excellent. Then.
Good enough.
Excellent. That's what we think. I could listen. You've been on that show.
I have.
You have been on that. Have you been on that show with Piers? No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. You two have been on that
Loads
show.
of times.
Could I be Piers? Could I replace him?
I think you're almost too nice.
Oh.
I think you're too nice.
So you're just going to be nasty to do that job?
You need to have a sharp edge.
I like Susanna. I think she's suffered enough already.
Susanna.
Susanna,
listen.
you don't know. No.
Where would you like to go next, Benjamin?
Well, there's the Nirvana album story. I don't know if you've seen this, but it's one of the most iconic album covers there is for 30 years. It's the naked baby swimming after the dollar note, and it sort of epitomises capitalism. It's always claimed. Well, the boy who was the baby, the man who was the baby, his name is Spencer Eldon. He's now 30 years old, and he wants £1.8 million in damages because of child sexual exploitation. He says that the image, which is a fully naked baby, is like a sex worker, and he wants $150,000 from or £150,000 in dollars from each of the various people involved in making this album cover happen.
I
So
find
when
it
they-
absolutely staggering.
When they reissued this album, though, he actually volunteered to be on the cover again, and actually wanted to be as a grown man.
Yeah.
He
and has
wanted to be-
recreated. I mean, there's the picture of him recreating the
Very
picture.
But also, James, he wanted to do it naked, and the photographer said, "Well, I don't think we can do that, mate. I'm going to work.
No.
Wear your swimming trunks." But he wanted to do it naked then. So how traumatised is he exactly?
Yeah, we're traumatised to get more money.
Critically to the legal question, his dad apparently never signed a consent form for it, and they had been given word that the genitals of the baby would be covered up in the picture, which evidently it wasn't.
Oh.
And so, I think that gives them a leg to stand on. I think it'd be very interesting to see what happens. But he did say in another interview that he did that women would find out that that's what he was the baby of, and they'd think he was very wealthy from it, and then he'd find out that he gets no royalties, and they'd be terribly disappointed.
It's all about money, isn't it? It's not about his
Meanwhile-
winky, it's about money.
Well done, the Times for having taken
That's
that picture.
great, isn't it?
And then look at
Yeah.
that. Oh, look at Dominic Raab.
Isn't that
Look,
great?
very clever.
I know, isn't that
so
great?
there it is. The sea is actually closed.
Well-
Dominic Raab is your favourite person. You want to talk about? Oh, look, he's on the front page of the
He
Daily
is on the
Star.
front page of the Daily Star,
That's
my favourite
fine
newspaper,
news.
great columnist. I love this. I mean, his excuse that, for not rushing back when the whole Afghanistan problem kicked off was that, I wasn't really on holiday, I was working. I couldn't have been on holiday because the sea was closed.
I'll tell you somewhere where the sea is open. Frinton-on-Sea, which is in the newspapers. Frinton-on-Sea is both in the Times today. Tourism shy Frinton acts to freeze out ice cream sellers, they say, but then also it appears in today's Daily
Why are we
Telegraph.
talking about this particular story, James?
Ice cream.
Any reason?
Ice cream salesman
I can't
has
work it out.
bylaws licked as Frinton fights to hold back the tide of change. And this is all about commercialism on the beach. And you might have missed the story, and you might have missed about Frinton-on-Sea. Arguably
Why do you care so much about
the
Frinton-on-Sea?
United Kingdom's best tourist seaside resort.
Wow. Have you ever been?
I will admit my interest.
Go on then,
I've been
full
going to
disclaimer.
Please
Frinton-on-Sea
do.
all my life, and I have placed there. Listen, I love Frinton-on-Sea. I think it's amazing. It is a little bit of a storm in a teacup. When there's sort of like summer no news, so Frinton was on the front pages years ago because there was no fish and chip shop, and
Yeah.
then there was a big row because there was a fish and chip shop,
absolutely.
and it even made the
and
American
they complained
press.
about the pub as well. You didn't want a pub
when the pub
there.
arrived because
No,
it didn't have a pub, and
absolutely,
then
yeah.
now it has a pub.
Yeah. Mhm.
And now there's this. There's always been this bylaw that says you're not allowed any commercialism either on the promenade by the sea or on this big stretch of grass called the Greensward. That there's no commercialism. And actually, I agree with it because I think it does make it slightly unique and slightly different. If you want an ice cream, there's plenty of places to go on the Connaught Avenue, the High Street. There's you just not on the sea because it stops children just begging and you know, for all that stuff.
Children begging.
Children begging.
Children begging for ice cream. And on that note, I think we must leave it. What newspaper haven't I torn up? Oh, the Daily Star. Oh, rubbish.
Oh.
Thank you very much indeed to this week's panellists, to Benjamin Butterworth, to Dawn Neesom. I'm James Max. Thanks for watching.